Hello and welcome to STRT Over Coffee. My name is Shaquila Smith and I lead the community and marketing here at STRT. STRT Over Coffee is all about having conversations with creators in the Salt Lake City area. And for this episode, we'll be interviewing singer and songwriter Carolee Beck. We'll be discussing her journey as an artist and how she creates her music. Hi, how are you, Carolee? I'm so happy you're here.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you today, and I always love talking about music, so it's a win-win.
Thank you. Yeah, I love talking about music too. Like, I'm not a singer, but it makes me happy because it's like I know talking about what you're passionate about always just makes you happy. Like, so thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I would love to start the podcast with you talking about yourself and telling those listening just a little bit more about who you are, just like as an artist, but also what brought you to be an artist.
Cool. Now, so I'm Carolee Beck, and I am a musician that makes music. Kind of hard to nail down the genre for me, but I think it's kind of a mix of like indie pop, indie rock, and like synth type stuff, you know? And so that's stuff I always like tell people, I'm like, maybe just go listen to it and let me know what you think of it. Because it fits together and it's just influenced in a lot of different places, which I think is kind of cool. So
no, I love it.
Yeah, thanks. And so I started writing music in high school, and I realized that I could like sing and play the piano. I always was a pianist, like I took piano lessons forever when I was a kid. And I'm trying to remember exactly. I realized that I could sing and like harmonize and stuff pretty early on too, but then my mom also found out, my mom's a really good singer. And so she just like had us singing at everything. And I was like, oh, I hate this. And so I like boycotted singing for a long time as like a kid. And then when I got into high school is when I was like, oh, maybe singing's not so bad. And then I realized I could songwrite. And so it just like, it's developed over a long period of time into what it is now, which hopefully it just keeps evolving and changing. But yeah, I released my first single in 2020, like at the beginning of the year. And since then I've released a few more, and it's been really fun and exciting. And yeah, I'm just, again, excited to see what else will happen.
I think it's always so fun because every artist that I've talked to like on this podcast is, oh, I'm on this journey, but I don't know what's next. And it's just so exciting because I think as an artist, you just evolve through life. And like that's like your music reflects that, you know? So I think it's really cool. But it seems like it's always kind of been in your blood for sure. Like,
I've always loved it. Yeah. I am really lucky because I don't know, music is pretty big in my family. My mom kind of made all of us learn the piano, but I wanted to, so it was fine. And so like all my family's pretty musical, and it's definitely like influenced me and why I've decided to pursue what I've, the music anyways.
Yeah, I love that. That's so cool. When did you start as like a singer and songwriter? Because I know you've been playing piano for a while. I know like it's all developed, but when did you start?
So I started taking voice lessons my freshman year of high school. And then I don't know, I feel like for the next couple of years, I like really explored that side of myself in singing. And then I just got like so bored of singing other people's songs. And so that's why I was like, I wonder if I could write. And then I just like, I kind of started to try to make up things. And then I wrote a song and I was like, oh, I think that's good. But I was like too scared to show anyone, like one of those things where you're like, I love those videos where it's like people are listening to their phone and they're like just trying to see if I'm a good singer or not. Like that was me. I was doing that. I was like, is this good? I don't know. And then I like got brave enough to start showing people my senior year of high school. And then I was like, okay, I think I'm on a right track. And then I went to college and studied music. And that, I think really in college is when, I don't know, like things started to come together more for the songwriting part. And then I started writing lots of songs. I started performing. I got in a band that was a rock band, and then I helped write songs with them. And it was just like, I don't know, it was so fun. And so definitely, I think that's why my music is just like this blend of stuff. because it's all been like compiled over the ages of things that I've loved and done. And yeah, so I definitely, like, I started to get serious about it in college. Like, it took a while, but yeah.
No, I think there's so much vulnerability to being
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm doing this. Like, here's my first
Mm-hmm.
song. Like, this is me, and recording yourself. Like, I even have a hard time recording these. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, dang it, there's a podcast. I'm like, I'm only talking and I'm like self-critical, you know? So it's funny, but as an artist, it's like another level. You know, you're
it's like you're
the tunes,
mm-hmm.
the music.
You're like, you're singing your journal pretty much, and it's like, okay, like, I don't know, just putting it out there. And some people, like, of course, not everyone's gonna like what I create, and that's totally fine, but maybe some people would. And so that's kind of what has propelled me to just keep going.
I love that. I also, and when you say that, it's funny because I think that's how directors for movies approach like their movies, is like, well, there's going to be someone that likes it, or there's going to be a crowd that likes it. Not everyone is going to like it. And movies and songwriting and singing is very similar in the sense that, like, when you create these albums, it's just a reflection of your life and like a real story.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
I love that. So what artist, and this is a question I like to ask, but what artist do you think is like who you look up to, and who's most like you, and who you tried to be or like reflect?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this question too, because just like over the different times of my life, it's kind of changed, but there's always been like constants that I always like go back to. And so the three bands that I like always think of is I've always loved Imagine Dragons. I haven't loved their like newest stuff, but like when they first came out, like I listened to them all the time.
Yeah.
And that's like, they've stayed, like their older albums, I like always, when I'm feeling bad, I go back and listen to like their like Night Visions. I love that album. Yeah, and then I love Walk the Moon just so much. And I love them too because they're just unapologetically themselves.
Yes.
And like, I feel like their music reflects that too. It's just really fun. And they're like, we don't care. We just like to do this, and we like to hang out with their friends. If you ever like need a good, just a laugh, I guess go watch their early music videos, because it's literally somebody has just taken like, oh shoot, what are those cameras called? You know, that are the GoPros.
Oh,
They literally have taken a GoPro and just filmed themselves with their audio like in the back, and like it's their legit videos.
I love it.
They got really popular, and they just like kept it that way. And I just am like, that's so cool, you know. Just again, they're so authentic. Yeah, and they're like obviously low budget videos, but they're just having a good time, and like you can feel it from their videos. So I love them.
Love it.
And then I also love Reliant K, and that was like my first introduction into like they're like punk rock, but I love that sound, and I love the lyrics that they have. And so yeah, them too. Those three bands, I look up to them, and I would love to meet any of them someday.
I love
they've influenced my writing a lot.
I feel like that reflects you, like in a nutshell. Like you are all those things, all those sounds. And I mean, when you talked about the music video of Walk the Moon, it's like, it's funny because your Lava Lamp series on YouTube, literally just like, that's exactly what I thought of. I'm like, oh, she's like so authentic. Like that's how you do things. And I love it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. That's always like one thing that I want to show through in like in myself and in my music, is just like the authenticity, because there's just so many people trying to be something they're not in the world, and we just need people to be true. And if we come off weird and quirky, like we need you, you know, like stay that way, because it's all valuable and it all helps.
I totally agree. I think so too. I think in the adult world, right, you get kind of, you don't want to be a child anymore because you're told to grow up and like be this person. And so it gets confusing. Like you're like, I don't know if this is truly me or not.
Yeah.
People are telling me this. I don't want to be judged. Like I don't want to, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that's really cool that you really stick by that to be yourself.
Well, thank you. I hope so. I hope that's what's shining through. I know,
Yeah,
again, like
that's exactly what's shining through.
changing as it goes, but thank you.
Of course. So with like creating music and being an artist and pursuing it, I mean, what has been the trials that you've encountered and how have you overcame those, and what has been, I mean, the common theme, like what keeps coming back as a trial? So
I think the hardest thing for me has just been like, does anyone care about this? You know, like, and that's it goes against like the brand, you know, of being authentic, because like when you create, it's like I'm creating it for me because I like it. But it's just, I think when I first started releasing music, I was really scared because I'm like, are people gonna listen? Are they gonna care? Is it gonna carry me forward, or is it just not gonna matter? And I won't lie, like before I started releasing music, it was in 2019, so right before the year before the pandemic, which you think like that would be the hard year, but 2019 was the hardest year for me, just because I had just graduated from college, and I felt like I came from a high because I just come from doing all these music things. I was performing live all the time. I feel like I was kind of building a fan base, and then I moved to Salt Lake, and it just like nothing was working out. I just felt like nobody was listening or cared anymore, which it probably isn't true, but you know, our brains just convince us of untrue things all the time. And I just really kind of got stuck. I don't know. I didn't perform or write for almost that whole year. And I know, like, so I don't know. I was working a job, and the job was fine, but it just wasn't what I wanted to be doing. And I just felt myself like slowly like sinking, you know, and just rather than putting my passion at the forefront, I was like, well, I need to make a living and I need to make a life. And like the music's just not doing it right now for me. And so, I just like pushed it aside and realized as like the months went by how unhappy I was. And like I had to figure that out and change that. And so that's like it, when I came out in 2020, I had just barely gotten like a band together to play my stuff, because I was in a band before, in a rock band, but everybody kind of moved away and did their own things. And so I'm like, well, I want to start something again. So I started releasing music, got a band together, and then of course pandemic hit, everything shut down. But I feel like I did start getting some momentum. And so that, I don't know, I just think like that fight of still pursuing a passion when it's not exactly the biggest money maker, which is so hard because the arts, you know, like, oh, they should be one of the top things, and they are, but just for like the smaller artists, it's hard, you know. And sometimes it's like, why am I doing this still? But just to keep pursuing the passion is, I think it's huge, and finding ways to make that payoff happen. But
I think I could see that. And also like, I just want to give a moment to say 2020 was so hard for everybody, but like artists and small businesses, I mean, oh my gosh, like you guys went through the ringer.
It just was hard.
So my heart goes to like you guys, and I totally, when you explain, like, you're just like, I'm sinking. It's like every entrepreneur, right? Like kind of feels that. It's like, like when I'm like pursuing my passion, it's like, why am I doing this? And for a long time, I feel like you're giving so much of yourself, but you don't feel like you're receiving back from the universe, whether it's like money or what it is, like whatever. It just feels like you're just giving so much, and it can be exhausting. So, I mean, the fact that you keep pushing through means like so much, I think. And I also think it reflects on like your personality. Like it becomes like you could tell when you talk to you, you're, I would say, brave. You're overcoming things. Like I don't know, something about your energy. I'm like complimenting you right now. I'm like,
oh, like, thank you. That is Carolee. So nice. So I appreciate that a lot. I think I watched this video, and it's Dan Reynolds from Imagine Dragons, because again, love them. And he, like, it's this like mini documentary about their band, and in the video he says you should never pursue music unless you have to. And I like, anything in the arts, I think that's
Yeah.
true for, because it's not an easy industry to be in. But if you have to do it, then you have to do it. And those are the people that end up, I guess, making it. And making it can mean lots of different things, you know,
Right.
but like not quitting in what they're trying to do, because like, well, this is my passion. I can't do anything else because this has to be it. And so that's always been me too. I'm like, I don't, like, I've tried other things. They haven't fulfilled me like this has, so this has to be it. So I guess I'm just going to work till I die to make it happen, you know?
I'm like, no, eventually I know it's like going to pay off. What continues to like inspire you to create music? Like what continues to like give you that drive? I know it's your passion, but like what is your purpose? Like what inspires you?
I just think over time, what has always helped me, like when I'm struggling or when I just like, I need inspiration or I'm searching for something, like music's always been there to catch me. I don't know. That's like every time it's always been there. It lifts me. It makes me feel better. Or when I want to feel sad, it makes me feel sad. You know, like I just love that music can do that to you. And I want to help like funnel that to people too. And so that's why that's what inspires me anyways, is being able to get out things that I'm feeling, because I know I'm not the only one, and maybe that can help somebody else who's feeling something similar, and then being able to put words to that. I don't know, there's nothing like it.
I think I'm not an artist, but from what I could tell, I mean, the same feelings as if you do anything else. Like that's, you know, it's like you want to share with other people what you love to do. It's like when chefs cook, like they create this recipe to share with other people. And once they get a satisfaction from them, like from people receiving their food well, they're like, oh, I'm so happy. Like I did my job. And I think that's kind of the same feeling as what I'm getting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, when creating this music, and I know that you're kind of a mix of genres, like how have you built your brand, or how do you think you've built your fan base so far? Like what is the Carolee brand?
I don't know. Lately, what I've felt like the direction I've been trying to go in anyways with my brand, again, is that authenticity. And then also kind of like an old school retro type of vibe. So like bright colors and just, again, like bringing back things that, let me rephrase that. It's like, I love today's like style and how people view things, because anything goes, you know. I love that. And like things that that are like retro and used to not be cool, they're cool. And I have always felt that way. Like growing up, I always feel like I wore things that everyone's like, what? I would come upstairs, and I was a big like, I would shop at DI and like thrift stores, and my family made fun of me so hard for that. And I was just like, what? Like, this is cool. And so then when all of a sudden, like now other people are starting to do things that I was doing before, which I'm not saying I'm like a trendsetter or anything. I feel like we all have our areas in that. But I was just like, okay, this is cool now. Like, this is what people are doing. And I'm like, again, just unapologetically being yourself is just do it. Like, whether people are making fun of you or not, like thrift those clothes, wear those pants, like just do it. And so that's kind of what I was trying to make my brand be.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny you say like the vintage thing. It's crazy. Like vintage and thrift shopping is a thing now. Like it is a trend. Huge. So it's funny because I think a lot of people, I mean, you see this in like pop culture too, is people get like made fun of for what they wear and things, and then you see it like the next 2 years and you're like, what? Like
you're like, wait a minute.
Like don't listen to the haters, because like the haters will probably wear what you're wearing.
For sure. But if it becomes a trend, then they're gonna do exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. I think being authentically yourself is like the right answer always. So I totally agree.
Totally, yeah.
I love that. I think from what I know of you and kind of just our relationship in the past like year, I think your brand being like loud, it's like you clarifying that right now. It like now speaks to me with your music. Like now it all makes sense. Cause like, I'm like, oh wow, the purpose of her music really reflects in not only her songwriting and her singing, in her brand, but like it reflects in her personality. So like I think you've done a good job as an
thank
artist.
you. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
It's good to get the validation. Keep it coming.
I'm going to compliment you a lot on this podcast. I already know.
Thank you.
But what are you working on now? I know it's 2021. Masks are like finally off. Hopefully they don't come back. Oh, I'm just like
I hope
praying.
not too. I hope not.
Yeah. And so are you working on any new singles or an album, or, I mean, what's kind of the next steps in the upcoming years?
Yeah, I have tons of music that is like almost finished. And so I've just been trying to figure out, I have a team that's called the Mighty Happy Crew. They're kind of like, they're a production team, but it's like my friends, you know, and so we've kind of built this thing. And with especially one guy's name is Pat, like between me and him, we've done all of like my stuff and he's helped produce my things. And so we've been trying to figure out what like a good step going forward is, if we want to keep releasing singles until I've like gotten maybe a bit more of a fan base, or release an EP or an album. I'm not quite sure, but I do know that there will be music being released this year. I have a single that's going to be coming out really soon. And so I'm just hoping for lots of new music this year.
I love it. I think a lot of artists, from what I could tell, have been so much more inspired this year. Like so much more. I know in 2020, right, there was like this self-care component because people were like, oh, now we have to be remote. We have to like stay inside. And so people like journaled and like picked up meditation and reading and all these things. For artists, I think that was good, but also like bad. Right? Because you're like, I need some energy. Like, where's the energy coming from? You know?
So, not going to live concerts was like the biggest bummer for me in 2020. I just like that. I don't really like touching people. This sounds weird. I'm a really like, I don't know. I'm an introvert in that sense where I don't really need a lot of people around me a lot. But concerts was the one place where I'm like, wall to wall, let's all like squish in this place and let's all like
get
have
sweaty.
This common love, you know, like, yeah, I'm totally fine with that. And so that was something me and my husband, like, we did all the time. Like, our concerts, we were constantly going to concerts. And so, like, not going, like, killed me. So this year, I'm like, oh, I gotta, like, get tickets for everything that's opening up. It's great. I'm so happy that we have concerts again.
Yeah, me too. How has it like inspired your creativity? Like, do you feel like you're more creative when you're with people, or like just seeing people's faces in general? I feel like makes a difference. Like, it's so weird. It's a weird thing.
I totally agree. Yeah, it's good to be a social. Like, I tend to like, again, be more introverted and like stay by myself. And I don't know, last year that really brought that out where I'm like, wow, I really could just stay by myself for a long time, you know?
Yeah.
And that's when I'm like, being forced out into it is what was good for me, and not having to be forced out into it. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is who I am. You know, I am like friendly and outgoing, but I don't know. So yeah,
I'm the same way. Like, you like capture that perfectly. Like, I feel like, you know, you could have like developed these bad habits of staying inside and watching Netflix and like doing whatever you want and like not having to deal with like social awkwardness. I think also the mask made it more awkward because you're like, I don't know if you can hear me. Like, I have to repeat like so many words or sentences, and it's just it was different. So I could definitely say that much. But I totally feel you. With this new, you know, singles that you're releasing, is there like a certain common theme, or is it kind of just like based off snippets of your life? Like, what's the way you create music in like these singles? What are they about?
I would say most of the time my songs are they come from experiences most of the time, like not always, but just like things like this single that I'm about to put out. Actually, I wrote it when I was in college, and it's just about like getting ghosted. Like, do you know what that means? It's always funny. So ghosting is like when you've been like kind of dating someone and then all of a sudden they just like drop you out of nowhere, and then you never hear from them again. No explanation, like just nothing. So I got ghosted, and I just like, I thought that was so funny that I got ghosted, because I'm like, that has never happened to me before. But I had been like rude to guys in the past and done similar things, and I was like, this feels awful. Like, I will never do this again. And so the song that I'm coming out with is just about that experience, and it's just like in a kind of a funny way, you know.
Yeah, I love
and
it.
So that's what that one is. And then so I either write like that, where it's like pretty directly related to my experiences, or I'm trying to tell a story that just has never happened to me, but by, you know, like, it's just fun to put yourself in a different place and pretend to be something else. And so my music's either one of those two things.
I love that. Yeah, it's interesting. I think every artist has like their own like process or way they develop their music. And like, it's so funny when you said like, you know, the ghosted, you know, situation and experience. It's like, it reminded me of Taylor Swift for a second, because I'm like, Taylor Swift writes so many breakup songs, you know, like this guy, and I mean, she has a theme going on, like that's her theme, like she ties into that emotion, and like I'll be who I want to be, like whatever, kind of like, I don't care what you think. And I think that vibe is, and that theme and that inspiration, I think it's cool. Like, I'm for it. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to hear how people create their music. It's so fun.
Yeah, I agree.
What is like the main struggle with creating new singles and albums? Is it like, I know a lot of creatives, right? You need to go somewhere to seek more inspiration. I know some people, like photographers and videographers, are like, I need to travel to like have inspiration. Is there like an outlet for you to create music? Like, do you need an outlet somewhere?
Oh, that's an interesting question that I haven't ever really thought about before. It's, for me, how inspiration works is I'll sometimes go like weeks, like I'll start working on a song and be like so inspired, and I can tell when it's all working out, like it's just coming out naturally and it feels good. And then all of a sudden I'll just like get blocked, and then I'll be like, oh, that's weird. And then I can tell like anything else that comes out, it's just not happening. So I kind of have to like step away from it and take a break. And sometimes like I'll set a song aside for like weeks or months, and then all of a sudden I'll just be out like doing. I really love being outside. I love biking and swimming and all that stuff. And sometimes I'll just be out, and all of a sudden I'll be like, oh, I think I just figured out how to make that work. And then I'll go sit in front of my piano, and the rest of it just pours out. And so that's usually how it works for me. Sometimes it's like all of it will come out in one thing, and I'm like, okay, that's all I can give for today, because it's just, I just used it all up. And then it sometimes takes a little bit to reload it, but
so you need like breaks. It's like increments. Yeah. That's smart, actually, because I think when you like try, like this happens to me when I try to sit down and like lay it out like thoroughly, and I'm just like, my brain hurts. Like, it's too much for me to process. But sometimes it's good to go outside, get some vitamin D, and like soak up the sunshine or whatever, and come back and be like, oh, okay, that's like, I feel better. I need clarity.
Yeah, I totally think so, because there's been times where I've tried to like sit and force it, and it never works out. I don't know. I never come up with anything that's very good. And so that's what I just come to find about myself. Like, when I am feeling it, then I need to spend as much time, like the second I'm feeling it, come sit down at the piano or whatever, and just like get it all out for as long as it takes. And then once it's gone, just be okay with it being unfinished for a bit until you can come back and finish it. It's always worked that way for me. I don't know.
I think that's good. That's like a good way to approach it. And I think it's a healthy way to approach it, because I think like, especially studio sessions, from what I hear for artists, it's like they go after work, and then like that's their allocated time, say like Monday, Tuesday, Friday, or sorry, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like every other day, but they have that structure, and sometimes they're not, like, they don't do it based off of how they feel, right? So they like kind of force that time. They're like, oh, this is the 2-hour block I have here at this studio. Like, I need to like pump stuff out. I think that happens, and I don't know, but I think this could possibly happen to like celebrities based off of sometimes like the singles that hit and sometimes the singles that don't hit. I think that's something, right? It's because they're like forcing music. They're like, I need to get music out there. But sometimes that urgency, as much as it could be good, I think maybe sometimes it's too forced. So I think that's like, the way you even make music really is your brand is like, you are authentic in the way you create music. It's when you feel it. It's when you're really creative.
Yeah.
Interesting. I love that. So what is like your plan moving forward to creating your brand? What is like the grand vision for you? What is like your roadmap?
Oh, that is the question. I don't know. I think honestly, my long-term goals for music, and I'm not exactly sure what they look like quite yet, but I just want to be able to make a living doing music, like a decent living, and whatever capacity that looks like. Now, I love performing, and I would love to have my songs be out there in large for everyone. Like, that would be so cool. But if it looks smaller than that, I'm totally fine with that. I just want to be able to do what I love and keep doing what I love, regardless of money and all that. So I don't know. The future, we'll see what happens. I am hoping to kind of break into the sync licensing world this year. That's kind of what I've started diving into a little bit, and just seeing if, I don't know, that seems like a cool way to even like advertise songs and then also get paid for getting your songs in movies. So I don't know, we'll see. I've kind of been doing a little bit of target writing for that, but I don't know.
That's exciting. That's big. Like that's enough to say like, that's my goal for right now. You know, like that's my plan. I'm not going to focus on anything else other than the music that I already have planned to release. So I think that's awesome.
I think so.
You know, approaching the end of the podcast, I always like to ask, you know, what is your advice for artists or creatives who really want to go into the music industry and pursuing, you know, like as a singer or songwriter or whatever it may be? What's your advice to pursuing it?
Yeah, so I have like 2 or 3 things. I think the first one is like, if you're afraid, that's good, and to do it. You know, something that I did when I got to college and really like gave me all the experiences that really, I don't know, have just led me to where I'm at now, is I told myself if I ever saw an opportunity to audition for something or to play live at something or just like anything like that, I was gonna do it. And so anytime I saw like audition flyers or like anyone asked if they like needed someone to play live, I was like, okay, I'll do it. And it, like, a lot of the times I'm like, it really was scary, but because of that, I met tons of amazing people. I had tons of experiences. Yeah, I failed a few times and it like didn't always work out, but I learned from those. And so I just would say, like, do things that scare you. You know, that's how we grow, and we figure out exactly what we want to do, and we find things we didn't know we wanted to do. So that's like the top thing. And then also, like, don't quit. You know, when it looks hard and things aren't quite going the way that you thought they would, and like my year of 2019, or I wanted to quit, but then I was just like unhappy, you know, like, don't give up. We're all going to have these leaps and valleys. Is that the phrase? No, hills and, what is it?
I think it's hills and valleys. Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, so we're all going to have like these different like dips in times where it's really good and times where it's really hard, but those are the times that when we like really, I don't know, we really put ourselves in our foundations and just like keep going. That's when we grow the most. And so yeah, don't give up. Those are the most things two things I would say.
That's so beautiful. I love those too. I mean, I think those are like good general life advice. You know, like those two are just good general life advice. Like I feel like any entrepreneur, creative artist could really resonate with that. So thank you. So last thing, how can people listening find you? What is like the preferred way that you like people, you know, listening to your music, Instagram handles, all of that jazz?
Cool. So my music is anywhere you can stream music. So Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, wherever you listen, it's there. So go find it. I don't care how it is, just stream it. That's the best. And my Instagram handle is just my name, so Carolee Beck. And I post a lot of like updates and things to find on those. I have a Facebook page that's also Carolee Beck Music. So any of those places work great to find my stuff.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Carolee, for taking the time, like really just sharing your story. And I don't know, just like your creative process and you as like a human, but also your brand. And I think it was so, for me, looking like an outside looking in, like I think it was so fulfilling for me to understand who you are as an artist and like what direction you're going. And I mean, your inspirations and your creativity. I mean, it's so amazing. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you for having me here and for all the questions. I really, it's been fun to talk to you, and you are great too. You know, you're really good at building people up.
Oh, you're so awesome. Thank you. Well, we'll talk soon. Thanks so much, Carolee.
Well, yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. If you'd like to learn more about STRT, visit STRT.com. Music featured on the podcast today is by Carolee Beck, her single To the Mountains.